have new people in a couple minutes online, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Kylie is going to start recording. Melanie is going to unmute me and share her screen. Something, I imagine the agenda.
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out which one is it.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. We are doing roll call on the piece of paper instead of the 30 minutes of us reading the 200 plus libraries that are now in the shared catalog. The people online are putting their names and stuff in the chat. So we'll start with introductions. I am Amy Marchwick. I'm the Montana Shared Catalog Lead System Administrator. I think we'll just go down here and loop around. Introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Mel Carroll, System Administrator.
Laura Trotter, System Administrator. Kylie McGregor, Trainer, not System Administrator. Kara Orban, Consortia Coordinator.
Melody Carly, System Administrator.
And then the executive board can introduce themselves. I think there's only one here in the room. Jonah, just say it.
I'm not a systems administrator. I'm the MSC exec board. I'm from Sheridan County, Plentywood, director. Second up.
Yeah. And then I don't have Zoom on mine, so I don't know if there are any of the exec board members online. They want to introduce themselves in chat, or they can unmute themselves and we do have a speaker.
Online. Carmen's online.
Hi, this is Carmen Clark. I work for the Bozeman Public Library, and I'm in my office in Bozeman. Hello.
I'm Mark Weatherington. I'm the Medium Public Library rep, and I'm at my office in Hamilton, Bitterroot Public Library.
That's all you see.
Deb Westrom, sorry I just arrived. Hellgate Elementary, I'm here in Missoula.
Okay, thanks. If any of the rest of the exec board sign on, they can introduce themselves then. So I think we'll move right along. We have what I hope is a fairly streamlined agenda, so we'll get started. The first thing we have is the fall 2022 members meeting minutes for approval. They were posted on the Aspen event page. So if there is any discussion or need for corrections, or I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes. This is Carmen. Or do you want me to put that in the chat? I don't care one way or another.
It's good. You said
okay.
That.
Okay, thanks.
Amy, we have a comment that you seem really quiet.
Okay. I'll speak up, but I'm farther from the microphone.
Yes, you are.
Just press there. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Nancy from Laurel. And now, any further discussion?
Sorry, Amy, I'm going to try to take minutes. Who seconded it?
Nancy from Laurel. Thank you, Deb. That was going to be my next thing. Becky usually takes the minutes, but she's out. So
yeah, I got it. I was on recess duty, so I just got in, but I got it.
And we're recording, so we'll have a way to if we miss anything. So thank you, Deb. Okay, all in favor, if you're in the room, go ahead and say aye. If you're in chat, type aye in the chat box if you're online for approving the 2022 fall meeting minutes.
Aye.
And then any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Minutes are approved. So the next thing I have is a quick thing from Kara. I'm gonna come over here so you're in front of the camera.
Over here, but I'm okay. Hi. Hello, online people. So some of you already know about this, but
next fiscal year, we are going to be studying our OCLC group services contract. This contract is what we call a sole source contract, which means we don't have to go through a competitive procurement process for it. And so for us to review it internally, that helps us to make sure that we're getting the value we expect to get out of this contract. We know that our costs have continued to rise for OCLC by about 3% every year, and yet our use in the way we expect to see use has continued to decrease. So the two main components of the OCLC contract, as you know, are the interlibrary loan and the cataloging tools. And we know that the shared catalog in particular has a unique way of utilizing the cataloging components. And we know that ILL is less used by shared catalog members in general than by non-shared catalog members who are part of group services. And so it's really important to us to have some input from shared catalog members on what we see as the value of this contract and to brainstorm some different ways we might be able to reconfigure our contract to deliver better value to the shared catalog and other libraries that are part of group services. So if that is very exciting to you and you cannot comprehend messing out on this great opportunity, you'll want to get in touch with me and we'll make sure that you are kept in the loop as we get this group together.
Yes. Over the next little while, if you want to be on the OCLC review task force, let Kara know. The next thing on our agenda is the MSC system update. This was posted on Monday, so it was kind of late. But it is all in writing. But we'll just go over not in as much detail as it's written down, because you can review it later, but just to give the highlights. We have finished testing kids catalog and we're waiting for one final update from Cersei that we have scheduled, though. We have a date for it, and then it will be ready to roll out. And I think Mel has it. She is going to pull it up and show you guys what it looks like. We think it looks pretty nifty. So you can see, I'll let you get your screen shared. Everything's popping. Okay. So this is just on our test profile, but this is on the production server. Right now, there's just this Kids in Block logo. We think that's a little small. So we're investigating some other ways to have it linked, maybe a bigger picture over on the other side. But when you click into it, it's got the great picture search that we remember from eLibrary. So it can, if they jump into A to Z, they have all different topics with the letters. They have all the number or animals, all the, everything. It will, will be limited to your library or your sharing group if you're in one of those. It has the kind of a nicer, simplified look here to make it nicer for children who are looking at it. So we will let you know on Gov Delivery. This is going to be opt-in. We won't turn it on for you unless you ask, because some libraries that don't have any kids materials don't need it. So we will announce on the Gov Delivery newsletter that MSC updates when we're ready for you to ask for it. But
what does it pull from? The subject heading?
It is pulling from item cat 2 of juvenile or easy.
Or the subject headings if they have the juvenile.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So it has to be juvenile, and then to find out ducks.
It's the subject headings. Yeah. Okay. And if we need to, Cersei has assured me that if we are in the top level and there's some animal or something that we feel is important to us as Montana librarians that is not in here, we can add that. We probably collect them for a while, like maybe 6 months, and then say to Cersei, here's the ones we want you to add. But if there's not some animal that we really feel is important or some subject, we can add those.
We can also rename ones, like this one was Buffalo a couple days ago. So I fixed it to Bison. So if you do see those errors, we would like to know that as well.
And it would be the same for all libraries?
Yes, the labeling is
the labeling, yes.
Yeah. So, kids catalog coming soon. We're
Got a couple people saying they love it online.
It's a good look. We got the results back from the auto renewal poll. There was some interest, quite a bit of interest in that. We are going to work with Cersei Dynex to get that configured. It will be opt-in per library. So if you don't want it, don't have to worry about it. It seems to work really well for the libraries that have it already. It will only allow, it auto renews and sends the patron an email saying your items were renewed. If they have holds or if they have something else that would block them, it won't renew them. So it's not going to override any of the already existing protections. It's great for your CERC staff because then instead of something being 3 weeks overdue, you'll have gotten another checkout for it. Mitch, you have a question?
You make it renew for not another 4 weeks?
I think it just, I think it renews for this same CERC rule. So it's set to be the same length. But a lot of times, from what we've heard from Cersei, the reminder email gets people to bring it back sooner. So it's just another reminder that's a little friendlier than your stuff is overdue, bring it back email. So in the next couple, I don't want to say couple, in the coming months, we'll be working on configuring that. We have to get it turned on our side and do some testing. But then again, there will be a call for if you want your library to opt in. Or at some point in the future, it will be just available at any point.
Is it just one thing? And then it's based on your circulation goal. So usually, I think a lot of ours have 2 renewals. So it would let you, if you have 2 left, it would let you do 2 more. Gotcha. But then it'll limit it based on your regular rules.
Yeah, for your library.
And it'll treat partners items that are at your library site.
Yeah, I think if it will set it, we have to look at how it works on the back end, but we would imagine that it sets up based on where the items were checked out, because that's what sets the CERC rule when they check out. So if it's a partner item that came to you, it'll get counted in your stuff because you're the one who checked it out. We'll probably try to get our sharing groups to.
We're gonna have to test it out because we might have to tinker with whether it's based on where the user's library is or where the station where it was checked out. We'll have to experiment a little. But it'd be great if all the partners agreed and all the other sharing communities agreed. We'll get that.
Are they saying they can't, or do we need to ask them? Okay, so people online, the conversation that's happening in the room, can you guys hear that? Because I forget that we need to repeat the questions.
No.
Okay, so the first question was if the renewal could be a shorter length than the original checkout, and the answer is not really because it's based on the original checkout CERC rule. Then there was a question about how many renewals it will be, and that again is based on the CERC rule. So if they could renew it twice by calling you, the auto renewal could renew it twice. And then we had a little bit of discussion about where, if you're in a sharing group, where it would renew. And that part we have to test. Is that everything? I'll try to remember to repeat things. Sorry.
Heidi Sue said, thank you. You're very clear. Much appreciated.
Great. So that's the auto renewal. Just to let you know, after we had the poll, we figured we'd keep you updated so it didn't just disappear. Gov delivery, those are the new fancy emails that we're sending out. The state of Montana is having everybody transition all their newsletters and listservs to this. It works for us on the back end a lot better than Google Groups, which is what we're using currently and is really sort of clunky. So we're sending them right now through MSC Discuss as well. We will, in the next few weeks, we will be subscribing all of the directors of the MSC libraries who haven't already subscribed, just so that we make sure that somebody at each library is getting these notices. If anybody else in your library wants to be on this, you can sign up yourself, which is a nice change from Google Groups. Like, you know, if you got a new staff person, you had to remember to ask us, and it was a whole process. But now people can sign up if you click on this link, and we have it, the link is on every Gov Delivery email that we're sending out and forwarding to MSC Discuss. So in the future, at some point, we don't have a timeline, MSC Discuss will be phased out just because the Google Groups is an old tool. But
is there, with all these Gov Delivery, there's quite a few of them coming out now. Like there's the Montana Library Go one, there's Montana State Library, and there's a number of them. There's quite a few. Is there a place if you just wanted to go online and you could just like select which one you wanted to read, or is there an aggregate?
So they're
all located.
Okay. So the question was, all of the state libraries, different projects and departments are now getting newsletters, and so Jonna is wondering if there's a place where you could get them aggregated or go see them. There's a place where you can go to click and see which ones you're subscribed to. And they all, once they're posted, they all have a link that you can get directly to them. But I don't know about an aggregating site, but that's a very good question. So we will find out and see if we can maybe make one, at least for MSC stuff, to have our old ones posted for review. We just wanted to let you know that we're going to start subscribing you. I'm just making a note of the aggregate plan. Okay, so office hours, we've had a couple sessions of those. They've been great for the libraries that dropped in. We're going to keep doing them because we feel like it's helpful to, like, if you have a question, especially after we send one of our big updates, you can go, I have a question about that. We'll try to schedule them sort of in conjunction with those. Because then you can get on-demand troubleshooting or whatever.
Do you need to describe them what they are?
Oh yeah, so office hours, we're just going to be set times, usually 2 in one day, where at least one MSC staff person will be hanging out in a Zoom meeting, and you can just drop in if it's convenient for you or you have a question. We can do some live troubleshooting, or if you have questions about any of the things. We have made a little survey to try to get to know what's a good time. Like we were doing, I think 10 and 2, but we want to know for the different types of libraries. Like maybe those are terrible times for schools, but it works okay for public if they some point need to drop in. So that was on the last Gov Delivery update. But if you want to fill out the poll, I know it's hard because it's not like a time you'd always be available, but just a time, if it's a time that absolutely won't work for you or will work for you.
Maybe we have a couple comments. Going back to the earlier subject, Heidi Sue and Rachel really like the idea of aggregate links, especially if they can't receive the emails. And Austin at Glacier County said the office hours have been fantastic. I highly recommend them.
Thank you. Yeah, it's especially if you show up and nobody else is there, then we'll just spend an hour fixing all of your problems. So yeah, we have a little scheduling poll, but we probably will continue to move those around a bit, just to make sure that if somebody wants to get one, they have an opportunity to. Oh, and we also have some MLA office hours. Amelia, I think, sent out a spreadsheet that people could see when we were available, and we put some times on there. But so there's some times we are available here if you want to do in person anything.
If they can't find the spreadsheet, they can just ask us when we're free.
Yeah, yes. or you could open a ticket because we're monitoring the ticket system. But yeah, so we're here. If we're not in sessions, we'd be happy to have some conversation. The text messaging is going to be, we're going to start testing in the next couple of weeks so that we can be switched over before our contract with Shalpom ends. So this will be free text messaging. So even the people who aren't paying for Shalpom will be able to use this. So we'll give you more information about that, but just to let you know that we're still working on it. And then I don't know if any of you noticed, but over the last few months, occasionally they'll come in and try to check something out, place a hold, look up a book, and it'll say locked record in the mornings, or the reports have not finished your overdue report or whatever that's usually there. in the morning when you come in, doesn't run until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We've been troubleshooting that with Cersei Dynex every time it happens, but we know what's causing it. It's one report that starts at 1 o'clock in the morning running, and until it finishes, it locks every record that it's editing, and then all the other reports pile up behind it. So we know why it happens, but we were troubleshooting why it's taking so long.
That's an admin report.
Yeah,
that's not something any of you are doing.
No, it runs every night to everything that got edited during the day has to be indexed for good searching. We discovered in this last, was it Monday of last week, either Tuesday of last week, we found another report that was running that every night was queuing up like 20,000 records for indexing. And so we checked with Cersei to make sure it was a report that was needed for eLibrary. It's not needed anymore. So we turned it off, and we're seeing big improvements on that indexing. So we're hopeful that it is resolved and we will no longer have that indexing report running until 8 in the morning and slowing everything else down. We just wanted to let you all know that we also know how terrible that is when your reports are late, or you click on the one that's on the top, but it's actually yesterday's report because the new one hasn't run yet. But feel free to continue opening tickets if you run into errors and stuff, because we need to know there's a problem before we can troubleshoot the problem. And as part of that, we are continuing with our migration of reports to BCA, because if your overdue reports or your various hold call lists have been migrated to BCA, the report's delay did not affect you because BCA isn't dependent on the workflow report times. So Rebecca, when she was still working for the MSC, one of her last projects was to move a huge ton of like statistic and list reports into BCA. There are still some hanging out in workflows, and we have made huge strides in overdue notices in BCA, like your print notices. They look fantastic. We'll set it up in your library folder. So you just click on it and the page breaks work by themselves. So we'll be reaching out to libraries, anyone who still has some of the old stats or list reports, reaching out to them, and some other reports that we've since identified that may work better in BCA, to see if you want us to switch those over. And if you want to move your overdue reports and we haven't reached out to you, or other reports and you want to like them better in BCA, just open a ticket. We're more than happy to take things out of workflows and put them in BCA report-wise. But we'll be doing that over the next couple of months.
Amy, I had a question about the SMS, going back to that. So my library has not been shout bomb. Is there a particular way, whether it's that home phone, work, like which field does the phone number need to be in? So
we will have a KB article at the very least, possibly, I don't want to sign Kylie up without talking to her, but probably a video or something. Like, we'll explain how to do it. Okay. But on your like modify user, it's actually going to be a whole separate tab. It's not going to be in the address field, so that you won't accidentally be texting some number that's not the right number.
Okay. So we'll be inputting it newly for every patron who wants to opt in.
Yeah.
Receiving text. Okay.
Which is nice, because it double safety on the opt-in, and we won't accidentally text anybody who didn't ask for it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? That reminded me of something, but I can't remember what it was. The phone numbers. The phone numbers are a mess. We always have plans to clean up the phone numbers. So that's the system update. Like I said, that this document is posted on the meeting materials if you want to look at it in more depth. Next on the agenda is the budget. So do you want to discuss that? And Mel? Yeah, I think we could. I can get out of the way.
Oh, which one? Please pull up the budget.
This one? Or
the spreadsheet. Okay, so let's walk through the proposed fiscal year 2024 budget. Oh,
One second, Carol.
Oh,
Gotta get
okay.
this on the screen.
Yeah. And then we'll look at the cost formula as the budget informs the cost formula in this case. So this will be familiar to a lot of you, but if you're new to the shared catalog, that would be helpful to go through and explain what these figures represent. So first we're talking about revenue. Oh, budget notes at the top. I guess we'll get to that. Okay, revenue. So this is what we are collecting through the cost formula. So that's your contribution to the shared budget. Yes, sorry, people online, I'm pointing at.
We've got a request for you to move closer to the mic.
But if I do, okay. So what am I in the way?
It's okay.
Yes, so that's a row, is it row or field in Excel? This row 6 is the shared contributions from all of you who are members, and that's our primary source of revenue for this program. And then this year, Amy and I talked about this, and we split out the custom templates that some of you are paying for to customize your VC mobile templates. We wanted that to balance out in the budget, and that's the only reason that we put it in here. This is the opt-in cost paid by individual libraries. So that only pertains to those of you who are paying for those custom templates. And then you'll see that zeroed out later in the budget. And then this row 8 is our state subsidy that we received to support the shared catalog. So that is basically our operating budget for the most part. We do get some LSTA federal funds to support some of our staff costs, but that's not in this budget because you're not voting on that. Okay, so expenses, MSL indirect services. This is just it's a state requirement because we receive your funds into our business office. We have to pay an indirect service fee to the state. And so that's what that 7754 is. Cersei Dynix renewal, that's our Cersei Dynix contract. And then the custom templates, like I mentioned earlier, that's that line that will cancel out the revenue that we receive from those of you who are participating in that. COSUGI is an acronym which stands for Customers of Cersei Dynix Users Group, Inc. And that serves two purposes. One is in the event that Cersei Dynix disappears, we have some insurance to secure the software. And the other is that it provides professional development opportunities to shared catalog staff. And so that's an annual renewal cost, that $150. And then we ask the shared catalog membership to cover 2 of the licenses for our Zoho ticket system. And the other licenses are covered by the state library through our federal budget. And so then moving down into training, travel, operations, and meetings. Well, as you know, we are not paying for a meeting this year, but if we decide to have a meeting at a separate location next year, we would like to budget for room rental and food and things like that. So that is that line. We did move some additional funds into the training and outreach for system administrator travel to trainings and site visits. So that is why you see a bit of an increase in that line 31. MSC personnel, that covers roughly half of your staff. And so half the staff hours are paid out of the membership fees, and then half is paid by the state library through federal funds. And staff operations, again, that's things like our equipment, and incidental things that we need to cover our work. And I think that is everything. And then there's a little bit of a reserve, 3,500, because when we were working out the cost formula, we were getting into some pretty silly decimal points trying to make it zero out. So there's a little bit of a buffer, which we usually find a valid reason to use throughout the course of the year. And we read that through the exec board governing body. So that is your budget. And so then for the cost formula, we took that line 6, that line 6, 488. And if you would pull up the cost formula spreadsheet, please. Yeah. Then we once again decided to use a flat percentage increase, and again it was a 3% flat percentage increase, which is pretty consistent with our contract renewal increase, and that calculates out to about what we are in need of raising to meet our costs in the proposed budget. Any questions about the budget or the cost formula? And this is an action item.
Yeah, so there are questions for discussion, but we would appreciate a motion. You can do it together or separately. The cost share formula and the budget need to be voted on by the members.
I'll never put them together.
Okay, so for the minutes, that was Rachel from Haver making a motion to approve the cost share formula and the proposed budget for the shared catalog.
I will second.
Kelly from Sydney seconded. Any further discussion? Any discussion from online?
Rachel tried to second, but
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, all in favor in the room, please say aye and type it in the chat.
Aye.
And any opposed, say nay. Great. So motion carries. I'm not hearing that there's a bunch of nays in the chat, and my computer just locked.
If you need an early invoice, open a ticket.
Yes, thank you. That's the most important step of keeping us going, is that we have a budget and we can send the invoices to things. My computer just locked, so now I can't see the agenda.
How do you see as a question? When would the invoices be sent out with these prices?
We will usually send them out as a batch right before July 1st, but if you want one earlier, we can send you one whenever you want.
Did you hear that? How you say? Yes.
So yeah, normally July 1st, but if you need one before then for your planning, open a ticket. We'll get one generated. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the bylaws revision, which we originally had as an action item, but we had to back that off. So as you know, the Montana Library Network has been changing things and recommended that we dissolve our executive board because almost all of our governing things happen through direct member votes. So we're working on that. We have to amend the bylaws to dissolve the executive board, and the executive board has been helping us rewrite the bylaws, but we didn't have a workable draft ready. We have to have 3 weeks notice on the bylaws before we can vote on it. So this is no longer an action item. It's just an update to let you know our current bylaws do allow us to do that electronically though. So we will finish working on a draft. We will put the draft up for comments from the whole membership, see if there's any comments, if we need to make more changes, then put up a draft that will get voted on electronically. We won't have to wait until the fall, but we also won't have to drag everybody back physically for a meeting. We could vote on that. We've had great discussion with the current exec board members. They are looking out for your guys's interests so if we run into problems in the future, they want us to have, layers of recourse to keep the budget or the bylaws amended. Again, make sure that there's ways to create committees if we need them. So we are trying to cover all those things, but we will post them so that people can make comments on them when we have a workable draft that's not just, right now it's like a Google Doc with 10 million comments down the side. We have to turn that into bylaw format. So, but just to let you guys know where we are on that.
And then Amy, once the bylaws are revised, then eventually do we have a revised contract?
Yes, we will need a revised contract after the bylaws are revised, because the contract also mentions the executive board. And my plan at this point is to, we'll do something similar. Have some kind of a committee, possibly the exec board as part of the bylaws changes to review them. It would be good if we could take anything out that would require us to then amend the contract again, like do it all at once if there's anything. But also I'm going to talk to Jenny about having a lawyer check it to make sure that everybody's protected, because when we changed it in 2017, I'm not sure that because we added 2 clauses is all, but none of us are lawyers who wrote those clauses. So, so yeah, bylaws changes. We will be working all as part of that on some ways to make sure that anything during the year between our 2 annual meetings that needs to be voted on, that we have a really good voting method so that we make sure we get as many responses as possible and that everybody gets to say, because I know sometimes if you can't come to a meeting, then it feels like you don't get to vote, or we save everything up for the meeting when we could roll it out faster if we could get a vote. So I think that will streamline some things.
We have a question in the chat. Heidi Sue asks, when the new agreements are sent out with the new bylaws, may we also obtain an accompanying document indicating what the changes are? It makes it easier for their legal team to process their agreement.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. We will definitely do that. Highlight what the adjustments are. That will make the bylaws easier to understand too, because we're not changing one clause. It's the executive board and our governing is sort of throughout. And there's some other very sort of outdated parts of the bylaws. We're fixing it all at once. I don't know. Any other discussion about that? It's two parts, but the public comment got broken on the wrong line. It's like, what is that? It's like, I thought I knew what I was talking about next, but the wording messed me up. So the membership communicate. No, it could have been me because I made the Word document. I just sent it to you. So that was probably on me. The membership communication discussion, we've been discussing this with the board really extensively as we work through this process, because as it stands, the board is one way for you, if you have concerns, to get in touch with us. And we want to make sure that we're not losing any communications channel as we dissolve the board. So there is a document which we sent out at the fall meeting that includes a lot of suggestions people made and work we were doing on them. But we just wanted to check in and see if people had any thoughts or concerns. The Gov Delivery, we're sending updates to MSC discuss more frequently, but they're not as 10 pages long. So we're hoping that is working. The Gov Delivery lets us Mel has a template where we highlight some KB articles and a little Did You Know blurb, which we think is working out nicely based on the tickets we get after we send them out. The office hours is another thing that we're doing just to increase ways for you to talk to us. But another thing I wanted to remind people is a possible option is if you have a problem that you need to work, troubleshoot or something in the system, and you think it's more complicated than a ticket, but office hours doesn't work for you, you can open a ticket and say, can we set up a meeting and we'll schedule it with you one-on-one. We're more than happy to do that. Sometimes I know if it's like a workflows problem, we had a couple just recently where really weird things were happening with receipt printer output, where it's just easier to just jump on and look at the properties together because receipt printers. So I wanted to remind people or let people know if they didn't know that that's an option. Because some people will open a ticket and say, I have a problem that is too complicated to explain in a ticket. Can you set up a time to have a call? So feel free to do that, because I have had that with Circe Gynex where I start typing and I realize it's going to take me 17 hours to write the problem and 3 minutes to explain it. So But if anybody has any further suggestions and or concerns about communication from MSC to members, from members to MSC, members to members, I don't know what other kind of communication we might have, but
we all talk, so
yeah,
I feel like our
MSC to MSC is good.
So this is Deb, and I know that as a board member, sometimes it's easy, even for us we have more communication than we do with, even like I'm the schools rep, and there's not, like, I don't have a ton of communication, but we've been noodling on and trying to figure out how all this MLN and how all the changes are going to be affected, and we're even struggling with it. So if, like, for sure, if you have questions and ideas and thoughts and concerns about any of the pieces of the changes that are happening, we really appreciate just what the MSC staff is doing and does. But we also, there's a part of us that are like, okay, so if all these wonderful people start not being here, how do we make sure that this consortium keeps going? Because it's a pretty amazing thing and we all use it. So as we're going through this transition, just if you have any thoughts or questions or concerns, they're the kind of things that we need to hear as we're making decisions and trying to think ahead of what's going on so that we don't get behind it and start being like, oops, I wish we'd thought of this before. So
proactive thinking as we transition. So then if there's any comments on that, that communication plan is on the meeting materials for the fall meeting, but we can also send it to MSC to discuss again if people are interested in that. Oh, and it's in Zoho because we put it in the forums in case people had feedback, because we thought maybe people want to be able to type their response instead of. So the next item on the agenda is public comment, because we went screaming through the agenda and it did not take us 3 hours. It might have if we'd had the bylaws vote, but any public comment?
Where's the content management committee update?
Oh.
I'm just kicker now.
We left that.
I think we were including a lot of it in the system update.
Yeah, we did meet though.
Yeah, they did meet. We met and discussed. I can make a content management update. We met and discussed the addition of the 336 field in the search results in Enterprise to help clarify, because some things say audio, but you can't tell if they're a digital audio or their play away or their CD, or if they're book on CD or if they're music. So we're trying to get some clarification in there. We've got Cersei helped us build a new little blurb line there, but it says text for everything that's not audio or video, and we had some concerns about just the word text there. So we're still working on that. We're like, well, if it says text and it's all in capital letters, are people going to think it's a button that will let them text the title to themselves? And it is not. So but I think we've made some progress that we can do some things there. We had some discussion. What else did we have discussion about?
Series and serials.
Series and serials. After all of our,
come to our manga session.
Yeah, I was gonna say, after all of our discussion years ago about collapsing all the records, we might be going the other direction. Yeah. So there's this, and one of our MSC sessions here at MLA is about cataloging serials, because serials.
Laura will be talking. I'll be there too. I'll be talking about things, and Laura will be talking about important things. So if you want to come, we'd love to have you.
Oh, can you put in a plug about original cataloging items too?
Oh yeah, so original cataloging items. If you have items that need to be original cataloged, do we have restrictions on that? About it? Does it need to be Montana items?
Not anymore.
Not okay. So we have a ticket. You can use the ticket system to request MSC staff to original catalog items for you. there's a KB article that tells what you need to include. And I think we do have a limit of number of items per month, so you don't drop 300 things from your weird stuff shelf on us at once.
It's not meant to take the place of, if you already have an original cataloger, we're not going to start like doing their work for them. It's for the libraries that don't have an original cataloger on staff.
Yeah. To fill those ones who you keep stuff in for 6 years until there's a Montana Treasures training at MLA, and you bring all your stuff and try to catalog it that day so you get it done. Yeah. So and we're since we're putting that in the ticket system, it's helping us keep track of what kind of things need to be cataloged, as well as stats, which is a good argument for how much is this a needed thing. Is it just like this little long tail of stuff, or is there a big thing? So,
and as a reminder, that stuff, it's not just in the shared catalog, but also not in OCLC Smart. So if you search Smart for it and you don't find it there either, that's more stuff.
We have a question in the chat. It's about shop bomb. So if you feel ready to, I don't know if we still have other fancy things.
Oh yeah. And there was some discussion. The other thing the CMC talked about was hotspots, and mostly it does seem to be about the part that we can help with is the patrons being able to place holds. And so we came up with a solution. We have a hotspot session here.
Come to my other session.
Yes.
Friday morning, bright and early. Melody and I are presenting, but we're all going to be around. So,
and are people? It's going to auto migrate everyone eventually.
Why? Yes.
To what?
By
these new and improved hotspot records.
Yeah. Right. So we have. There's going to be a date by which, if you haven't moved your records over to the preferred records using, the transferring function, then the system administrators will very kindly do it for you in batch. And I believe it's in April 20th, starting April 24th. Thank you, Laura. That will be starting on that. That's not to say that will be finished in that brief amount of time.
But we're splitting. I don't want to take away from this session. We're trying to make it so it's easier for patrons to place holds, because with the analytics on them, when they click place hold, they can see the analytics, but they can't see what library owns which analytics. So
basically we split one big record into 4 records so that the patrons will be able to tell the carrier and whether or not that hotspot is filtered. So for example, it'll be Verizon filtered or Verizon unfiltered, or I don't think it says unfiltered. It'll just say whether it's filtered. And so you can and we have the list of title control numbers where you can just pull up that record using that number and attach your hotspot to it.
Because we do hear that some patrons don't care and some patrons care a lot, because on their side of town, only one of the vendors works with it.
Right.
Unfortunately, the issues of people aren't bringing my hotspot back. I had to shut it down. Then they brought it back the next day. We don't have a solution for that. Like patron behavior is outside of our purview.
Exactly. But yeah, if you want to come to the session, please do. If you're not able to, we also have instructions in our knowledge base, and you're welcome to ask us questions anytime, of course.
And we will reach out. There's a lot of them that will be able to know if it's a Verizon or a T-Mobile, partly based on the ones that if you got it from MSL, either you put a note in there or share a spreadsheet. But ones that we can't determine for sure which record to move it to, we'll reach out to you.
And will it still fall back on the library's CERC rules, like whether it's foldable or not?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. The only things it won't change circulation or checkouts, or if your library doesn't allow holds, that won't change. We're just moving them between big records. So yeah, your internal procedures should not be affected. We try not to make life harder for you. Okay.
One last thing about that, and I'll get to the shop bomb question from Abby, but we're still having you fill out the item category 1 of hotspot and item category 5 of MSL grant for our purposes of collecting data on those hotspots. So if it is an MSL hotspot, we want to make sure that you're still filling out those fields, because we get a lot of good data from that. But I think that's all I have to say about that. The question from Abby is, Sorry if I missed this, but will Shout Bomb be automatically converted to text?
So I'm assuming that she's asking like the people who are already signed up for Shout Bomb if we will convert them to the new version. George from Shout Bomb very kindly agreed to send us, I think he has barcodes and phone numbers, and he will send that to us. And then so then we would be able to do it in batch. The arguments for and against that, like it'll be easier for your staff if we just switch everybody over. But the argument against it is that your patrons signed up with Shout Bomb, and so then we're just kind of, are we switching just to a new vendor, or are we like forcing them to something they might not want anymore? And so we might set up some way like lists of patrons so the patron can verify that they're okay still being signed up for text. And we probably also have to do some, like, because right now people can get print or phone or email. Like, what if they want a combination of things, like text replace? We've got to work some details out there.
I remember when librarian was easy.
Was it really though?
We had this card we had to type up. Okay, we made them in triplicate.
Yeah, we put it in the 3 drawers.
Here and here. And then we did this other card that we stamped and we put it in the pocket and pulled the other. That was easy.
But you still had to deal with your wonderful patrons, which isn't always easy, right?
Yeah, but it's a technology part.
Yeah, you thought
be great.
Yeah.
When I started, we had them, it did the stamping for you. It had the little metal plate in the card and you put it in. And that was my favorite, like the chunk noise.
Mine. Amy literally was talking about this on the ride over.
Yeah.
I forget how we got on this topic, but it was something about how when she worked at Belgrade, they still stamped that. So I was just like, although that would be pretty satisfying.
I could bring mine tomorrow for show and tell.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
Okay. Any other public comment? I think we're done then. Unless there's more comments on the chat.
No comments on the chat that I can see right now.
All right. Thanks everybody so much for coming. The way that the shared catalog has worked and keeps working for 21 years, guys, is that people come to the meetings and vote on stuff and discuss. Yeah, that's when Belgrade went. It's 2004. We were phase 2.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the original 17 partners were the first ones.